Hello, how are you? So you're thinking of walking the Camino Frances and you're thinking, what guidebook should I get? Do I even need a guidebook? I know there's a lot of apps out there. You could use your mobile phone for a lot of things. Some people like to have something with them that is paper that you can make notes on and maybe sit and plan a little bit ahead at home. Make some reservations from home, maybe make a note in the book. So the book has some advantages. And what I would like to do today is look at the Camino Frances. I have, as you can see here, I have 9 guidebooks on the Camino Frances. And I am thinking of just going through a little bit each one of them, tell you not the one that you should get. I'm not going to tell you buy this one. I'm going to tell you some advantages and disadvantages of each of them, and then you could decide yourself which one you would like to get. All right, so let me start with this guidebook. This is a book that I got in 2023. I would say this is the newest book that I have in my store for the Camino Frances. It is not that well known. It is written by Andrew Houseley, and this is the 2023 edition, which I believe is the current edition. It is 23 euros and weighs 200 grams. That's about 7 ounces, I think. So I wanted to show you a little bit what this book looks like. It's a relatively big book in size. I mean, as I mentioned, 200 grams. It does describe the various stages, and it has maps in here. This is the map that he has on Pamplona with details about what's going on in Pamplona, what to do. So this is a book that is a guidebook as well as a lodging guide. Some guidebooks focus a lot on just finding you lodging information, giving you lodging information and places to stay, and just have a map and nothing more. Some books go more into detail and is actually a guide that gives you some ideas of what to see in the town coming up for the next few stages. So many pilgrims use the guidebook as a thing that they look through in the afternoon, thinking about their next stage, where they stop in the next stage. And when you look through the guidebook, a guidebook like this, you can have a feel for what is there to do tomorrow afternoon when you stop in your next little town. So this book has maps and, as I mentioned, lodging information. It is from 2023. But it also has a guide part which has some history and more information about each of the villages that you will go through. 23 euros, 200 grams. Next book. This is the John Brierley guide, which is the one that has been around for the longest. It's 23.90, 150 grams. 5.3 ounces, more or less. Now, this is the guidebook that has been around for the longest. I think the first edition was about 2003. Yes, this is the 20th edition, published in 2024 by his daughter Gemma. And it is, I think many people find this to be like the Camino Bible. If you don't know exactly which one to get, after looking through all of these books and the things that I mentioned here, the default one I think would be this one. It's relatively light. It has good information about lodging. It has information about each of the stages and some information about each of the towns. Now, of course, each author has their own way of presenting the information. Here you have a little bit about that stage height map, so you can see the hills coming up. And on this side, you'll have just a general map of see where the route goes through, what the towns that it goes through. So this I feel is, if you're not sure, you don't know what to get, I would lean towards this one. It's been around the longest, and this is the book that I sell the most of. John Brierley, 2390, 150 grams. Next one is the Wise Pilgrim Camino Frances Guide, the red book. And this is the 2024 edition. It is 1590, 150 grams, about 5.3 ounces. Now, of course, Wise Pilgrim also have an app for this Camino, and if you get the full app, I believe the information in the app is exactly the same as the information in the book. As you see here, this is just a lot like John Brierley Guide, just a different way of presenting the information. You have maps, you have lodging information, you have information on what's coming up in the various towns you're passing by, and it is a bit more economical, 1590. So this is just another way of presenting information. Some people like this one better, some people like John Brierley's better. But as I mentioned, he also has an app that goes with this book. So in theory, you could use this book at home to plan maybe, and then when you walk, you could use either the book or the app or both, and find your way to Santiago. So Wise Pilgrim Guide, Camino Frances, 1590, 150 grams. Now, if you're biking or cycling your way to Santiago, the Cicerone has this guide for bikers. It's the only biking guide that I have. It's only available for the Camino Frances, Sange, Pied de Port to Santiago, Cycling the Camino Santiago, the Way of St. James, Camino Frances, written by Mike Wells. It is 1490, weighs 250 grams, about 8.8 ounces. Now, this book is not the 2024 edition, I believe. I don't think they update it every year. This is the 2019 edition, and has, as the other books, a lot of background information on the various towns that you go through. You could see here, this is probably Pamplona. But it is focused on bikers. So you get your bike routes, the situation on the hill that day, the hilliness of the stage. And I haven't heard a lot back from people using exactly this guide, but if you're a biker, you might find this interesting and probably will get some good tips on for you to use when you're biking the Camino, because it's a little bit different biking than walking. You're doing longer stages. Sometimes there are passages where you probably can't pass with your bike and you have to do some other routes, and this book will have that included. So, Cycling the Camino Santiago, the Way of St. James, Camino Frances, Pied de Port to Santiago de Compostela. It is 1490, 250 grams, 8.8 ounces. Next one is the John Brierley Map Guide. This is a cut down version of this one. So this one has a lot more information in it. This one is just maps and contact information. It 1790 is 100 grams. So if you remember, this one was 150 grams. This is 100 grams. So this is much lighter. 100 grams, by the way, 3.5 ounces, more or less. It has height maps, albergue information, phone numbers, contact information, and just a map for you to use to guide you to your next stage. So height maps, contact information, and a map. And that's pretty much it. But it is lighter. So if you're one of those that are really weighing everything before you buy anything and put it in your backpack, this might be a good option for you if you are doing the Camino Frances. So it's the map guide by John Brierley, 1790, 100 grams. So next one is the Cicerone Camino Frances, Camino Santiago, Camino Frances guidebook and map book, includes Finisterre finish. This is actually 2 books. This because this book, as it is here, it's 1890, 550 grams. That about 19 ounces. As I mentioned, actually 2 books. So if you open it up, it has a map book inside, and it has a full guide inside. So there's 2 books in 1 book. Let's have a look. This is the Frances guide, which I believe this one, the edition is 2020 edition. And as with the other books, this is a more fuller guide, has a lot of information, of course, of the route, the albergue, contact information, height maps, and maps and information about each of the little villages, what's going on in each of these little towns, things to see. So it's a fuller guide. As for the map guide, which is just pretty much maps, these are maps of the various stages with the names of the town, with height maps, as you can see here. And it looks like on this map guide, they have decided to put the albergue information in the guidebook. So this is just a map with distance and the track where you could see where to go. This is, if you carry both of these, as I mentioned, it's over half a kilo. So it's a little bit of a more weight, but for the price of $18.90, you get 2 books in one. And that is a good deal if you're thinking of it that way. So you may decide to get this book with the 2 books in it and maybe just bring one of them. You don't have to bring both. Anyway, Cicerone Camino Frances, 1890, 550 grams. So next book. This is another John Brierley book, but it only has the last 5 days of the Camino Frances. Some people are just walking the last 100 kilometers from Sarria to Santiago. Sarria to Santiago, of course, is on the Camino Frances, and John Brierley decided to do a book just on those last 5 stages. So I actually haven't checked it, but I'm assuming that this book has the last 5 stages that is in this book. And actually, as it says here, it says Sarria to Santiago, but it covers Cebreiro, Sarria, Santiago. So it covers a couple of days before Sarria as well, starting in Cebreiro, and brings you all the way to Santiago. The other book, the other John Brierley book, takes you, of course, all the way from France. So if we look inside this book, you'll see that it has a little bit of history, a little bit of the various seasons to walk in, what's some comments on the various seasons, difference between albergues, a little bit of background information if you don't know much about the pilgrimage and have no experience in being in Spain. You have some Spanish words here, some translations, some basic phrases to ask for food at the restaurants, things like that. And of course, then it starts with the various stages, the height map here, the little bit of a description of the route that day, and of course, description of places to stay along the route from Sarria and into Santiago. So from Sarria to Santiago, it's relatively many places to stay. So that's why it has, for every kilometer, it has places, lodging options almost every kilometer on the way in. So this book is Sarria to Santiago, John Brierley, 1590, 100 grams, 3.5 ounces. And the next book is the Moon Guide to Camino Santiago, Sacred Sites, Historic Villages, Local Food and Wine by Beebe Bahrami, which of course I had here. We had an interview and we had a talk earlier, I believe it was earlier this year. I can see if I can link to that interview with her in the video link above. And also put the link in the description below in the video. Anyway, this food is a lot more of a cultural guide. I mean, it has... So let's have a look inside this guide. This guide is much more of a cultural guide. It shows you, of course, the various regions you're going to go through, some tips on what to pack and when to go, as all of these have, and a little bit of a day-to-day idea of stages, from the daily stages all the way from France and all the way to Santiago. And this talks a little bit about the Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. And it has lodging information and it has the stages. But each region have their own culinary specialties, and you're walking through wine regions. And some people like to have a book like this to that opens up a little bit more than just already maps and where to go. It gives you a little bit more of an idea of what to expect when you are walking through these regions of Spain. And I know a lot of people get this book to use to plan at home, to create a little bit of an expectation of what to see in the various regions when you walk through. And it prepares you a little bit more on the culture in Spain when you are walking through the various regions. Of course, it has albergues, it has information of each of these places as well. It is a little bit heavy, 450 grams. I know I think she has also a Kindle book, I think. At the back of this, there's a map as well that you could... Let's see if I can get this out. Of the various stages. Back and front. So, but this is an interesting book if you want to know a little bit more about where you're going to be walking through, not just the basic Camino facts, but a little bit broader guide that has more gastronomical, cultural information about the various regions as well. So it's the Moon Guide to the Camino Santiago, 25 euros, 450 grams, 15.8 ounces. Village to Village Guide. This is the Village to Village Camino Santiago Guide, Camino Frances Saint-Jean to Santiago and out to Finisterre as well. It is 21.90, it's 300 grams, about 10.5 ounces. Just open this up and you'll see that they have stages here. They laid out more or less what they're thinking. 35 days is what they're estimating. Many people start out with this as an idea, and then as you go, you adjust depending on your body and how things are going. This is the 2023 edition. And as with the other guides, the Village to Village has their own way of presenting information. And some people like this, some people like the other ones. You'll have information of various stages, what to expect on the various days of walking, with information about lodging on the various stages. So here, for example, we have stage 14, a little information box here of a little summary of that day, about 6 to 8 hours walking. And a height map down below with the regular map on the side. And then as you start going past, you'll see the explanations of various places you're going to go through that day with lodging information here on the side. So this is a good option, 21.90, 300 grams and about 10.5 ounces. So there's a lot of books out there if you're interested in walking the Camino Frances. As I said, these are 9 books that I sell. Most of these books come, if you buy it from me, they come with the credential from the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, which is of course the Camino Passport that you need to have while you collect your stamps on your way to Santiago. It says in the product description of each of these books if that credential is included or not. For most of the books they are. So yeah, I'll leave a link in the description below to all of these books, and I would also read some of the reviews that you see on the site for various books and to get a feel for which one's best for you. As I said, I don't think there's all of these books are good books. Just different ways of presenting the information, and some people like one and some people like the other. So I would just browse through and see if you find something that interests you. So with that, happy planning and buen camino.